Style opacity, like if I tone it down, is that any good? Okay, that's a bit interesting. That's actually very interesting. Neural filters. It's a feature that was added to Photoshop, I think this winter. It's a pretty recent update. And yeah, they added the filter that uses AI to apply any kind of changes to photos. At least that's the way it's positioned usually. And as far as I'm concerned, it was released pretty quietly. Like, I haven't seen a lot of YouTubers talking about it. Again, maybe in the photographer space that was a thing, but really not a lot of news about it. I just noticed it in my Photoshop once, and since then it was just there. And yeah, it's a fun thing that you can do a lot of stuff with to improve your photos, including like special filters to apply to the face. You see it immediately recognizes the face. But today I want to talk about applying all kinds of AI, neural, deep learning, whatever the word, all that stuff that's made for photos, but for us digital artists. So yeah, while this whole smart portrait thing is quite fun actually, and you can play with it quite a lot and it's pretty fun. There you go, we have a smiling David. I think it's David, I don't remember. I painted this a long time ago. But yeah, aside from that, in here we have like skin smoothing, but really the AI that it actually applies to is just the masking, I think. And the smoothing itself is just some kind of semi-transparent blur, so it's pretty gross, I think. JPEG artifacts, I don't think it's necessary for us. Style transfer. This is a fun thing. I'm gonna actually try to play with it by the end of this video, but let's move on with these betas. Smart portrait, this is what we just checked out. Then we have makeup transfer, also kind of fun, so you can actually use a photo of a makeup and transfer to the face, but again, it's not really for artists, I think. I mean, you can use everything. It might be useful in a certain... Depth blur is pretty much for just creating out of focus zones, so the main subject would be in focus and everything else will be kind of blurred, messes up all the time, so that's not interesting at all. Super zoom, something you may want to use, especially if you started your concept art with like a full body image, right? The character in full height. And then you want to make like a close up on the face. You can zoom in with this thing. So I'll just work with this original that's almost black and white, but actually it's a colorful study I did. So here we go. Pretty much all filters take like 5 to 20 seconds to apply. I don't know what exactly it does. Does it actually send the whole image to their servers to do the thing, or maybe it's calculating in place? But yeah, it may take some time to apply it. And yeah, this is, let me see. This is 100% scale of this image right now, and that's looking like it's not scaled up at all. Here's actually the 4 times scaling, and yeah, lines actually look like they're, you know, of actual resolution I'm looking at and not scaled up. So that's pretty good. I mean, it's like the most boring picture to check out scaling up on, but I mean, we have some pretty high definition textures and bristly shapes in here, and yeah, they like, you can see a little bit of something going on, you know, not exactly fine, like some kind of weird AI sharpening going on. But overall, it's a pretty cool thing, you know? This way you can start with like a very small image, then scale it up using this thing, and you'll already have a pretty high definition picture. But yeah, let's move on to the Colorize filter, which is, I think, the most interesting one. This is what it does by default when I just turn it on. And in here you can, well, move around like what kind of overall colors you want in the scene. Like I'm trying to remove some red from that. It's just completely just whatever AI decided to do here from the machine's imagination, so it's looking pretty weird, especially considering this is my own pretty nonsensical abstraction going on around the sculpture, so that's why it's so weird. But I actually pretty like the mechanics of adding your own colors to the picture. So actually what you do here, you use this little preview right here. It actually would be useful to zoom in, but I don't think you can. But what you do is pretty much you click on the point, you choose its color. Let's make him like cyan, I don't know. One thing to keep in mind though is that when you select the color, you have like the full range of all the colors, but really you only select hue and saturation, like value, like the brightness. You can't make David like really dark, I think. Yeah, like it's changing a bit, but became less saturated more than anything. So if you make something darker, it's usually gonna just affect saturation. So yeah, what you can actually do with saturation, you can like reduce or increase it using this global filter for global slider for everything. But yeah, these global sliders, sometimes they introduce some kind of artifacts like this, like some kind of bumpy colors. So I don't know, it may be a bit more suitable for photos, but in paintings we don't really need this noisy effect or whatever. I don't think anyone needs noisy effect if you ask me. But yeah, like just actually choosing a less saturated color for an object will kind of do it better. Right now, since I have just one point selected and I said like this pale cyan, it kind of blended it into the picture and affected like half of it. You can actually control like the size of it to tone it down, but as you can see, we're still affecting the background quite a lot. Instead of, localizing it just on the face, I'm actually desaturating face. It's kind of wonky a bit, because it's not just, you're not controlling some gradient, you're controlling it like you're telling AI, tone it down, whatever that means, But what you can do to make it much more solid is you can click and create a different color for the actual environment. So let's go with like strong purple color or something, it's kind of orange. But what you can do now, which is kind of useful, is whatever, like you select any point and then just keep clicking, you're applying the same color everywhere you click. And this way you see it's like bleeding in with its ambient lighting sort of affecting the shadows of this sculpture right here. So I'm gonna select the cyan color again, and I can see that the boob became kind of orange, so I'm gonna click on it to make it cyan as well. And there we go. And yeah, pretty much you look at all the parts where the color is kind of wrong and give it a hint that you want it the way you want it. And there we go, pretty cyan David with pretty non-cyan background. Another thing I like doing is I like making shadows of a bit of a different hue, because that's a frequent thing, let's make them a bit more saturated and like stronger, like closer to actual blue instead of cyan. Well, that may be a bit too strong, I don't know, like too saturated. And yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and click on all the dark parts of the sculpture to define that whole thing should have like blue shadows and cyan bright parts. And it's kind of getting a little bit, saturated. So I'm not sure about like colorizing with greater detail. For instance, if I would want to make the eyeballs actually white, it feels like it's definitely not gonna cooperate well because the scale of this whole preview thing is pretty small. And as far as I know, I can't just click here at all. So we can just go ahead and try. I'll just make it white like this. And yeah, it is just a soft spot because it doesn't really know what's going on. I can, again, lower the size of this control point here, but yeah, it's pretty much just gonna tone down the effect of this thing, not really lower the radius or anything. But I think what we can do is we can make David's hair, let's make it like yellow. Boom. And the shadow part will be like a bit more of an orange yellow. And again, I'm clicking on the bright yellow and copying it all over the hair to specify a bit more precisely what kind of colors I want and where. Let's see. There we go. Pretty close. Some cyan bleeding in there. I'm not sure why. I guess adding a bit more of those will send a clearer message. Well, there you go. Yeah, the outfit, let's make it, I don't know, very saturated violet or something. Whoa, that's a very different color. It may be affected by this thing though. What if I turned it off? Because I think if you're actually introducing your own colors, you don't really need this. I think this is what made the whole effect of my own control points kind of distorted and washed out, like diluted, because it was also removing all the reds and all the yellows. And in reality, that's the kind of colors we got. So yeah, this is a good time to just lower the saturation of it of it all, I guess. Oh, that's the kind of thing you get. But yeah, I can see immediately we have this kind of artifact showing through. But what I like about it, you can see how the bright spots are all like consistently yellow, like lemon yellow, but in shadows it's actually introducing this orange. I'm pretty sure it's because this deep learning algorithm learned a lot that that's how usually the hue is distributed in light and shadow. Red wavelength usually gets deeper into the shadows, so that's why we get this kind of result. And yeah, that's what we got. This is another version of it. I wonder if I just blend them together, is this gonna be something good? Actually, I'm kind of liking it a lot. So yeah, one way to quickly, search for colors, it's taking care of, fitting all the hues with the values of your black and white artwork. It's looking pretty cool. Here's like a basic concept art that I drew at some point. I don't remember what I was doing, but it's pretty old too. And in this case, when I just apply it, immediately it's recognizing it as a human form, applying basic human colors to it. But mostly I think it's just because I painted it as a rotten flesh. It's made pretty dark. And again, this filter can only change the hue and saturation and not the values. So the skin is still like halfway dark in this weird fashion, while the skin tones are applied as a human would have them. So we can just go ahead and fix them and apply some kind of zombie colors, like, I don't know, this kind of pale-ish dirty green. And yeah, we have pretty much the whole picture green now, but let's actually introduce different colors. Let's say the shorts would be kind of colorful. The shirt, let's make it kind of yellow-orange. And the background can be, let's like make it pale red or something. And specify it in here as well. And in here as well. And between the legs. And there we go. Pretty much like basic colors put in. After that, it's probably a good idea to also like, think on the overall gamut and maybe make it a bit more gruesome or something, I don't know. But yeah, let's actually go ahead and try that other thing with applying a different art style to the picture. So I assume it's actually made to, turn a photo into a painting. This basic thing that Corel Painter has been doing since the 90s. But hopefully it will do a bit of a better job than that. I think I kind of tried it at some point, but it's been a while. Well, yeah, that's not awesome. What about this? Okay. So this thing is kind of messy, like you can pretty much apply it to like abstractions, but not actually to use for work, I think. Maybe some of them work better than the others, but like it's supposed to imitate like thick spots of paint. It looks nothing like that. It looks like some gross filter that you never want to see. And of course, apparently you can't just, use any picture of other painting that you like, loaded in here, because each one of these is actually the result of deep learning from many, many artworks in that art style of like Van Gogh. Probably all of his artwork has been used, and to no good, apparently. So yeah, I can't say it's that useful, which is kind of surprising, I guess. Style opacity, like if I tone it down, is that any good? I hope it's not just semi-transparent blending. Okay, that's a bit interesting. That's actually very interesting. Wow, this is actually bringing a very interesting texture to the image. Like, I'm not sure about the quality of it. Like, this is 100% resolution of this image. I mean, the quality is pretty decent. I can feel a little bit of this huge radius sharpening effect or something going on, this weirdness. Some kind of glows, like these halos happening of a very big radius. But yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised, like the fact that you can tone it down like this is really cool. That actually can pretty much keep your colors, your details, and just apply a little bit of that brushwork. Yeah, even that is too much, like nothing more than a quarter of the effect. It's really cool because it's not just actually making it semi-transparent and overlaying on top, it's actually affecting the image appropriately and it's kind of smart about how to tone it down. So I think it's really cool. Here's the button to compare. Yeah, I'm actually liking it a lot. I think it's pretty cool. I like that the colors turned like red from orange. It became more like pure red or a bit pink. Apparently it's closer to that style, as we can see in this preview. So yeah, that's like affecting the hues a little bit. And of course, adding a lot of this cool texture of this brushwork. It's looking pretty dope. Detail. Okay, that was pretty subtle, but yeah, it's like a little bit of the sharpening, but again, kind of a smart sharpening, I guess. Okay, this is the maximum effect of it, looking pretty cool. Background blur, again, I'm not expecting anything good, especially in a painting that's pretty drafty I have in here. It applied it already, right? So pretty much the background details, they don't have a strong brushwork like geometry, the little bumps, they're all gone. It's kind of hard to compare different settings because you have to wait for a while. But yeah, I'm actually really liking it. I would probably not use this enhanced like extra detail because as it is, it's pretty cool. Maybe tone it down even more. These passes are pretty interesting. I wonder if it's like actually increasing the quality of it. Let's increase it a little bit more than I'm comfortable with. So 42%, yeah, that's a lot. And let's use like 5 passes. As far as I understand, it's gonna think on it 5 times instead of once, and probably it will do a better result. Okay, that's absolutely not what I was expecting. Yeah, it seems like it becomes just very messed up. Like it actually breaks the new details into more new details and it becomes like overworked or something. Okay, well that's just find edges filter, pretty much. So yeah, overall what I see interesting about this filter, the style transfer, is that you can apply it like midway. When you have a cool, basic colors, but you haven't really pushed for further details yet, you can apply some kind of filter, but yeah, I don't think this one. So far, only this one worked pretty good for me, but I guess it depends on the artwork you're actually applying it to. So this is looking kind of fun, but again, still kind of having a lot of this halo thing, and like swimming, like almost like TV static kind of effect of ghosting on the one edge. Yeah, I mean, this one is kind of looking cool. It's generally a pretty rough effect. It's from this Japanese artwork. And yeah, if you tone it down a lot, it may be kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, it's alright. The original looked like this. This is some kind of effect. Pretty much like Photoshop filters everyone knows and hates, but a bit smarter, a bit fresher. But I think it's like those old effects that we all know, like just basic filters, right? The whatever artistic things. They may have been kind of cool and sort of useful when they were just created, but with years after everyone using them all the time, they became like this obvious effect that everyone knows, and it's just gross now. And probably the same thing will happen with these filters, but I think the difference with this one is that it will develop faster than we get used to it, and it will become actually better and more natural looking. So yeah, I recommend really keeping your eye on this panel of neural filters because I think it's like changing with time even since it first appeared. There's a bit of the new things going on. So yeah, for those of you still watching, a little bonus thing I wanted to talk about. I mentioned this trick in the recent Overpaint episode, but the point is, whenever you want to like select something and move it around, you would create a selection and reposition it, and then you start working the edges, right? Because it looks gross and everything. What I really like doing recently is pretty much creating your selection and then immediately clicking select and mask and just ramping up the radius of the search right here. And as you can see, what it does is it's also using some kind of smart content-aware search for the actual details immediately around the selection you made. And what's cool about it, you're now having a selection that's following the shape of your own brushwork. which has already saved me quite a lot of time since the moment I came up with this kind of approach. Again, it's pretty much the tool made for photographers or whatever when they try to fix some kind of details in the photo. But it's also a really cool feature that quickly searches just for the details that you actually have in the artwork. And this way you have a much more natural way to move details around like this. And that'll be it. Just wanted to make a quick video covering some of the cool new features involving some kind of deep learning AI things in Photoshop, because I think they may be pretty useful, and what's best about it in Photoshop is that it's right here in the interface, not only for photographers, but for artists as well. Bye! Yeah, by the way, there's also a wait list right here in this neural filters panel, and this is the kind of stuff that's coming. And in here we have interesting stuff like sketch to portrait, pencil artwork, face to caricature, photo to sketch. Pretty much all of it seems like very useful stuff for artists specifically. So that's gonna be a lot of fun.